my wife suddenly fell down the stairs. She lost several years of memory, and when I rushed to the hospital room, I heard her voice full of agitation. How could I marry a man I met through matchmaking? Father, are you deceiving me? This marriage has only lasted half a year. It seems like it's about to end in divorce. But the moment I appeared at the door of the hospital room, Grace Young looked up at me with a weary expression. Our breaths seemed to intertwine, my love. Do you believe in love at first sight? When I hurriedly arrived at the hospital room, I heard heated arguments echoing from inside. Uncle Young, Father, don't lie to me. I only fell once. To suddenly jump from 18 to 25 is one thing, but to be married to... Grace Young's voice was filled with agitation. I'm 25 in the prime of my youth. Why would I marry? Am I crazy, or did Father force me to marry him? My father-in-law, Uncle Young, was just as agitated. Don't falsely accuse your father. You were the one who insisted on getting married, and now you blame me for forcing you. Marry or not, it's up to you. The conversation inside made me pause the steps I was about to take. When I received the call from my father-in-law, I was still on my way back from a business trip. He stammered, saying that my wife, married to me for half a year, had carelessly fallen down the stairs. The fall affected her mind. She couldn't remember anything after the age of 18, and I met Grace Young when she was 23. This also meant the woman lying in the hospital room now had lost all memory of me. She no longer recognized me. No way! Grace Young's voice rang out again. What illness do I have to get married so early? Father, tell me, who did I marry? Some young master from which family? The Young Families Company is a well-known enterprise locally. From her great-grandfather's time, they were considered tycoons. But by her generation, it had a solid foundation. Surely they were among the elite. No matter which family, it had to be a match of equal status, not some rich young master. Your husband comes from a scholarly family. His parents are both university professors. Their family is well off. After saying this, Uncle Young leisurely added, your husband is 3 years older than you, but quite handsome. You two met through matchmaking. Little Grace, with her memories stuck at 18, exploded upon hearing this. How could I marry a man I met through matchmaking? Father, are you tricking me? At this point, she touched her face. Am not disfigured, am I? I haven't gotten uglier over the years, have I? Why would I need to go on blind dates? I'm an 18-year-old girl full of vitality, still thinking about whether to take the university entrance exam or study abroad. And Father let me marry a 8-year-old man. Disappointed, Grace Young expressed her dissatisfaction with this marriage. Uncle Young, didn't you stop me at all? The sky's about to rain. If my daughter wants to marry, what can I stop? Haven't I told you? You were the one clinging to him, insisting on marriage. You proposed to him several times. He didn't even plan to marry you. You practically became his housemaid. Uncle Young continued with hurtful words. And don't think losing your memory lets you pretend to be young. You're 25 now, I don't care. At 25, I must have been coerced by someone. Grace Young declared firmly. I want a divorce. As soon as she said this, the hospital room fell silent for 2 seconds. Uncle Young took a few deep breaths, sighed heavily. What sins have I committed? It was so hard to wait until you were over 20, finally sensible, married, and settled down, and then one fall ruin your mind. How will I explain this to your mother? Grace Young's mother passed away from illness when she was in middle school. Uncle Young, a single father, raised his rebellious daughter alone, never remarried nor had other children. I stood at the door of the hospital room lost in thought. It seems this marriage, only half a year old, might not last long. No one knows when Grace Young's mind will recover, or if it will recover at all. Taking a deep breath, I still took a step forward, pushed open the hospital room door, looked up inside. Grace Young, dressed in a patient gown, her head wrapped in thick bandages. I didn't know the extent of her injuries. The demeanor of 18-year-old Grace Young was indeed very different from her at 25. Her eyes radiated a youthful innocence that couldn't be faked. She truly had lost her memory. I was about to speak When I saw Grace Young on the hospital bed staring at me, as if our breaths became one, she reached out to pull her father. Father, do you believe in love at first sight? Grace Young stared at me for a long time, so long that I thought she might have remembered something, but her expression remained confused. After all, she still didn't remember me. Uncle Young, seeing his daughter's foolish behavior, snorted coldly. Just as Uncle Young was about to say something, the doctor walked in. The doctor, upon entering, spoke about Grace Young's condition. Memory loss due to a concussion. Requires further observation and rest. She shouldn't overexert her brain for now. As for when her memory might return, everyone needs to be mentally prepared. The doctor said the 7 years of memory Grace Young lost could return in a short time, but it might also take longer. As quick as a week or a month, as slow as 6 months, a year, or even 2 years. The human brain is a complex structure. No one can say for sure. What do you mean? It means I might not remember anything from after I was 18 for years. Grace Young reacted first. The doctor spoke very cautiously. Don't worry too much. Her condition isn't severe. There's a high chance she'll recover her memory. It's just a matter of how long. It depends on the individual. Father, did you hear that? If I never remember, Father, will you make me live with a strange man? The woman with memory stuck at 18 expressed her emotions clearly. She said it would delay me and him. Better to divorce now and be done with it. Uncle Young wanted to speak but stopped, glancing at me. With the doctor present, he wanted to scold his daughter but held back. The doctor said the patient's health was largely fine. The observation period in the hospital was sufficient. She could be discharged. The patient's family could pick up the medicine and handle discharge procedures. Seeing my father-in-law about to go with the doctor, I spoke up. "It'll go, Father." Little Grace, with her peculiar mind, clearly grasped the key point. Uncle Young, you have a grown son like this out there. Don't you feel guilty toward my mother? Uncle Young, who had been patient since his daughter woke up, finally couldn't take it after being falsely accused. Grace Young, that's enough. This is your husband. The 2 words "your husband" came out. Grace Young, who was being fierce on the hospital bed, was like someone had grabbed her throat. Her beautiful eyes widened unconsciously. Her gaze fell on me again. From her expression, it was clear this was shocking news to her. Your husband, her voice softened, as if confirming this truth with me and her father. If I didn't see wrong, Grace Young's face turned red behind her ears in those brief seconds. Uncle Young looked at his daughter's foolish behavior. His whole demeanor was one of sighing. That's right. This is the husband you met through matchmaking. Didn't you just say you wanted to divorce him? Grace Young suddenly fell silent, lowered her head, as if she no longer had the courage to look at me. Was it embarrassment or shyness? I couldn't tell if Grace Young at 18. To her now, I was truly a stranger. As I stepped out of the hospital room, before I'd gone to steps, I heard Grace Young's voice from inside. Father, tell me, is the man I just fell for at first sight really my husband? Uncle Young's voice was calm. If not, he's your fiancé you've never met. Grace Young completed the discharge procedures. My father-in-law and I brought her home. In these 6 months of marriage, Grace Young and I have been living in the wedding apartment prepared by my father-in-law, a luxurious apartment in an upscale residential area. Just the 2 of us living there. As for where Grace Young should stay now, I discussed it with my father-in-law. I thought letting Grace Young temporarily stay at her old home to rest would make her more comfortable. But Uncle Young firmly said, Thomas, I know Grace is making things hard for you right now. She can't work now. The company is handled by me alone. If she stays at the old house, I won't have time to care for her. It's better to keep things as they were. Maybe seeing you every day. She'll remember something sooner. Uncle Young's words made sense. Moreover, Grace Young, who had been loudly demanding a divorce, had now quieted down. I had to agree. In the car the driver was driving, Uncle Young sat in the front passenger seat. Grace Young and I sat in the back. After days of business abroad, busy every day, returning and rushing around, plus the news of Grace Young's hospitalization, I hadn't adjusted to the time zone and hurried to the hospital. Now I could finally close my eyes and rest. I closed my eyes, but always felt a gaze lingering on my face. Opening my eyes, it seemed like my imagination. Maybe the driver drove too smoothly, or perhaps I was too exhausted these past few days. I didn't know when I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, it was already dusk outside. The driver and my father-in-law were gone from the car, and my head was resting on the shoulder of the person next to me. Grace Young opened her eyes the moment I lifted my head. When our eyes met, she had a moment of awkwardness. She paused before saying, "You were asleep earlier." This was the first time she spoke to me after losing her memory. "Why didn't you wake me?" Grace Young's response missed the point. "We just arrived not long ago. My father had something to do and left first." Getting out of the car, Grace Young obediently followed behind me. She had no memories after 18. She didn't even know which building or floor our wedding apartment was in. The whole way, I thought, how to live with this wife who lost 7 years of memory. Grace Young didn't remember me. To her, I was just a stranger who had legally married her. Grace Young and I met through matchmaking. When I was 26, my parents, using their wide network from their teaching careers, started arranging all sorts of blind dates for me. Their concept of marriage was quite traditional. Over the years, they respected each other like guests, rarely argued. Perhaps because they were colleagues at the same school, they had many shared topics. In my memory as a child, I slept in a separate room early on, because every night before bed, my parents would lie in bed, talking about colleagues and leaders, occasionally mentioning students. Of course, not all gossip, just a couple, with too much desire to share with each other. And me, a child who couldn't stay up late, naturally couldn't join their late-night discussions. Before 26, I hadn't dated, simply because I hadn't met someone I wanted to love. But this puzzled my talkative parents. In their eyes, an outstanding son like me shouldn't be single at 26. Besides not supporting early romance, they raised me quite freely. The blind dates they arranged, I attended. The matches they personally introduced were indeed not bad. Each person in the matchmaking market was of high quality. Among the girls I met, some were students of my parents, some were daughters of their colleagues, and some were from other circles they knew. Their children. In terms of character, no need to discuss. But in appearance and objective conditions, they were excellent. Each one was quite good, just missing a little something. Some were very pretty, not bad at all. The blind dates with their conversations and manners didn't make me uncomfortable. Some matches are still close friends of ours. When we got married, we invited them to the wedding. Between people, between men and women, there isn't just one kind of emotion or relationship. Among those matches, Grace Young was somewhat special. She was the last one I met in those blind dates. Not a student of my parents or their colleague, nor the daughter of an acquaintance. She was the one who actively sought me out. At the time, they said a local entrepreneur wanted to find a husband for his daughter and asked my parents to introduce someone. The other party's conditions were not bad at all, especially when they learned the entrepreneur was Uncle Young. My parents thought this match was worth meeting. My father-in-law had some reputation in this city, had done plenty of good deeds like donating money. The only headache, they said, was his daughter's marriage. Compared to Grace Young, our family knew Uncle Young first. I was the first and only one Grace Young met in a blind date. When I first met her at the restaurant, I was truly surprised. Grace Young, 23, just 2 years out of university, still carried the aura of a student. She was far more beautiful than I imagined. No matter how you looked, she didn't seem like someone rushing to find a match. That day, Grace Young appeared in a white dress, exuding a touch of gentleness and elegance. Sometimes people have a kind of sixth sense, unexplainable by science. For example, when I met Grace Young at the blind date, I felt there would be a story between us. After the meal, Grace Young asked if I wanted to watch a movie or take a walk. These were subtle signals in a blind date, showing she was interested in me, and my agreement carried the same meaning. It's just that starting from a blind date always makes one consider conditions. Not just her conditions, but my own as well. Compared to the Young family, I could have chosen a more evenly matched marriage partner. From meeting to marriage, I rejected Grace Young a few times, but she really matched my aesthetic taste. That biological attraction combined with her persistence led us to fall in love. From meeting to marriage, just 2 years. Life after marriage was quite sweet, until this accident happened. Grace Young was wandering around our wedding apartment, having lost her memory. She didn't even know the layout or decor of the house. Only half a year into marriage, some decorations from the wedding were still up. Grace Young looked at the bold red happiness character on the wall, silently lost in thought. So ugly, she blurted out. Only after commenting did she remember I was nearby. Turned her head and glanced at me. I kept a straight face. You insisted on hanging it up back then. Grace Young, before the wedding, insisted on decorating this classically styled house with a huge bold red happiness character. Back then it wasn't just this one, but after the wedding most decorations were taken down. Only this happiness remained. Grace Young fell silent. She looked at me, then at the happiness on the wall, conflicted with her own sense of aesthetics. Darling, she hesitated for 2 seconds before getting to the point. What's your name? And are we really married? I didn't know what she thought of this marriage now, or rather what she thought of me, her husband, though I knew we were legally married. Grace Young's memory loss might recover in the future, but the unfamiliar gaze of the woman who shared my bed still made me feel uneasy. I went to the master bedroom, took out the marriage certificates from the drawer and handed them to her. These are our marriage certificates. My name is Thomas River. Grace Young flipped through the 2 certificates, her eyes full of curiosity. I didn't know what she was thinking, only saw her lower her head to read the certificates for a few seconds, then look up at me. Grace Young, with memories stuck at 18, was still not used to the fact she had a husband. The doorbell rang at that moment. It was Uncle Young. He had arranged for a housekeeper to take care of her meals during this time. The housekeeper came in and started busying herself in the kitchen, soon preparing a meal. Grace Young and I quietly ate a meal. After eating, she wasn't idle, wandering around the house, until she stood at the door of the master bedroom. Can I go in and look? Of course, this is your room too. Grace Young, after losing her memory, slowly stepped into the bedroom we lived in after marriage. Grace, you look around first. I'm going to shower. You'll change your bandage later. I didn't know that after saying this and going to shower, the woman in the room began to fidget restlessly, but I was truly exhausted. From the moment I learned of Grace Young's accident to her discharge, my nerves had been on edge. Now I just wanted to shower and sleep deeply. After showering, I put on pajamas and opened the bathroom door, just in time to see Grace Young closing the nightstand drawer. Though it was only her back, I could sense the panic in her movements. I raised an eyebrow. The things in the nightstand were indeed worth mentioning. Grace Young, before had like stocking up, bought a whole box of protective items. The nightstand drawer, neatly organized into 2 sections. The other side held a few small toys. Even with memories stuck at 18, she wasn't a child anymore. Grace Young turned and glanced at me. My pajamas were quite ordinary, just a regular black set. I was about to step forward when Grace Young suddenly stepped back, covering her face and saying, "Darling, don't come closer yet." She sat on the sofa by the window, hands covering her face, her whole body looking like it was about to combust. It had been so long since I'd seen Grace Young this shy. Even our first kiss, or our first night together, she wasn't like this. Just one fall that damaged her mind showed me a glimpse of what a younger, shy Grace Young looked like. "Are you okay?" I asked. Grace Young's earlobes were bright red. Her skin was naturally fair, but she was usually composed. Her emotions rarely showed. I was about to approach to check on her when the phone rang. It was my mother calling. "Thomas, how's Grace doing? Is it serious?" Her voice lowered. "Her body's fine. She just needs some rest. She really lost her memory." I glanced at Grace Young, nodding. My father's voice cut in. What then? If she never remembers, how will you live? It's fine, the doctor said, she'll recover. No need to make my parents worrying too. After hanging up, my gaze returned to Grace Young. I walked toward her. The closer I got, the more her eyes wavered. What are you going to do? I stood in front of her, looking down at Grace Young on the sofa, placed my hand on her head, said in a low voice, let me check your wound first. Compared to Grace Young, I was actually calmer. This was my wife. Touching her was perfectly normal. When I removed the bandage, I saw the wound on her head. The wife who was healthy before I left for my trip now returned not only with a scar on her forehead, but had forgotten me. Forgot she had graduated university and started working. Forgot she was married. 7 years of memory just vanished. My emotions were complex, mixed with uncertainty about the future and heartache for Grace Young. I instinctively blew gently on her wound, not noticing that Grace Young in front of me had frozen, not daring to move. Does it hurt? I asked. Grace Young's voice came a few seconds later. A dull ache, but not too painful anymore. I briefly wanted to lean down and kiss her to comfort her, but thinking of Grace Young now, with memories stuck at 18, I let go of the idea. Don't move. You'll change your bandage, I said in a low voice. I focused on changing her bandage, not noticing I was getting closer. She was enveloped by the scent of my body wash. When I finished applying the new bandage, I saw a wife who looked like she'd been boiled. I belatedly stepped back, about to say something. Grace Young looked up at me. I heard her say, can you tell me how we were together? This can't be explained in a few words. If I had to summarize it still, we met through matchmaking. That's not what I mean. Grace Young paused. After a while, she hesitantly said, what did you see in me? Grace Young with memory loss was actually quite interesting. Her question, how should I answer? Because you're very beautiful, and your family is very wealthy. This was the shallowest and most honest answer. That's all. She seemed dissatisfied with this answer, frowning. We met through matchmaking. Isn't that what it's all about? Teasing her until she leaned against me. Was there nothing else that moved you? The unwilling wife asked again. Of course there was. I pretended to think, seeing her full of curiosity. I couldn't help but smile. Your figure is great, and our married life is very harmonious. Didn't you see just now? I glanced at the nightstand full of protective items, and so I had a blushing wife again. Teasing an 18-year-old girl was actually quite fun. Moreover, Grace Young's appearance hadn't changed, even with her memory loss. Perhaps because it was still her. I really didn't feel guilty. So you just liked my money and lusted after my body? The woman in front of me asked. I crossed my arms, looked at her for a long time, curved my lips into a smile. And you making a fuss about divorce in the hospital? Now changing your mind, not wanting to divorce. Does that mean you're smitten by my looks? She fell silent. I have no memory of you. Now changing my mind, not wanting to divorce. Does that count as being smitten by your looks? Grace Young countered. What's the difference? She couldn't quite explain. Just repeated her rebuttal. It's just not the same. I didn't stubbornly argue with her about this. Turned and sat on the bed looking at her saying, I'm going to sleep. What's your plan? Grace Young was caught off guard by the topic change. She realized we were husband and wife, normally sleeping in the same bed. She froze for a moment. I smiled and said, you can sleep in the next room for now. I've already made the bed for you. Your clothes are in the dressing room in the master bedroom. If you're uncomfortable, you can move some to the other room's closet first. Grace Young softly agreed, hesitated for 2 seconds, then suddenly reacted. You planned this in advance. Deliberately didn't say waiting to see me embarrassed, right? You think of me like that. I raised an eyebrow at her. If you don't mind, you can sleep here. Sleep next to me. Our eyes met. Grace Young with her memory loss couldn't hold my gaze for a few seconds before fleeing our bedroom. Watching her back, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. After that, I had no energy to think further. The moment my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep. I slept until I woke up the next noon. Leaving the room, I saw Grace Young sitting on the sofa as if contemplating life. Hearing the bedroom door, she immediately turned to look, like a vigilant little puppy. There were faint dark circles under her eyes. It seemed she didn't rest well last night. How do you feel today? Not great. I approached to observe, probing. Have you remembered anything? Grace Young froze at that, then shook her head. Still only memories of being 18. It's okay, focus on recovering first. I reached out to touch her face. My hand was halfway there when I realized it wasn't appropriate, and luckily pulled back. I had just returned from a business trip plus family matters. Today I could rest. Moreover, we had visitors today. 2 of Grace Young's childhood best friends were coming over. Childhood friends, naturally those known since early years. From what she told me before, the 3 of them had known each other since they were in diapers. Extremely close. After marriage, Grace Young's friends naturally became my friends too. Last night, Grace Young probably stayed up late looking at her phone. When she first picked up her phone, she even forgot the password. The password she uses now is different from the one she used at 18. Luckily, there's facial recognition. She looked at me with a deep gaze, lost in thought. At 1 in the afternoon, the childhood friends Grace Young was eagerly awaiting finally arrived. But for Grace Young now, they brought a little surprise. When Lily Frost and Michael Strong appeared at the house, Grace Young was genuinely excited to see them. She had probably imagined a lot about how her friends had changed after 7 years. But clearly her imagination wasn't enough. Grace Young looked at her 2 friends, now much more mature. Then at the baby crawling on the blanket nearby, a crawling human child. Her whole body froze. No way, which one of you had a kid? Little Grace was clearly unprepared for this. Michael Strong stepped closer, staring at Grace Young, praising, "Wow, Grace Young, you really only remember things before 18. Lily Frost was even more outrageous, directly reaching out, lifting Grace Young's face to inspect. Not bad, not bad. Just a broken mind from the fall. Your face looks fine." Grace Young swatted her hand away. She was more concerned about whose baby was on the floor. Lily Frost turned to me, "Thomas. She really doesn't remember anything." I shook my head. "Grace Young, this is my and Michael's daughter, almost a year old." The air seemed to freeze for 2 seconds. Grace Young's eyes widened. By the time she processed what she heard, it was too late. She looked at the round-headed baby on the floor, then at her 2 friends standing on either side, looking like her mental world had been deeply shaken. You two had a kid." She suddenly stood up, her voice rising a few notches. "Since when did you 2 get together?" Before they could answer, Grace Young got agitated again, pointing at Lily Frost, accusing. "Didn't you say even if all the men in the world died, you wouldn't look twice at Michael Strong? Then looking at Michael, didn't you say, if you married it'd be to a gentle, calm girl, someone soft-spoken, saying only a lunatic would like Lily Frost, this tigress? You 2 together is practically incest." Grace Young shock spoke without filter. She was like the one left behind in their trio of friends. A pitiful light bulb kept in the dark. In Grace Young's eyes, Lily Frost and Michael Strong had betrayed their pure friendship unexpectedly. After she exposed them, she didn't get any remorse from her friends. Lily Frost said in surprise, "What you said is exactly like when you first found out we were together. Almost word for word. Are you an NPC reading a script?" The baby on the floor, as if spotting a target, humph, crawled toward Grace Young, first grabbing her pant leg with chubby hands, then holding tight, shakily standing up by leaning on her leg. Grace Young didn't dare touch the baby, facing its eyes. Her missing memories made her even more lost in the present. But her friend's child wasn't shy with strangers, just hugged Grace Young's leg. The baby's parents stood by watching the fun. Lily Frost laughed, saying, "Sweetheart, this is your Aunt Grace." Too bad the baby couldn't speak clearly yet, just learning to say mama and dada. Now facing Grace Young, it could only make babbling sounds. Adorable, both Lily Frost and Michael Strong were good-looking. Their child was also very cute. When I met them, they were already married. Lily Frost was pregnant then. Michael Strong took great care of her. I heard they grew up together. Childhood sweethearts, a perfect match. Who knew? They used to be at odds. My poor wife even thought about if they broke up, who she'd be stuck with. When I learned Grace Young while meeting a client got caught up in a nearby drama involving a mistress, and while watching the spectacle, was carelessly pushed down the stairs. Lily Frost and Michael Strong laughed so hard they couldn't stand straight. When I learned the cause of this disaster, I was speechless too. But Grace Young didn't remember anything. Her face expressionless, facing her friends laughing at her pain. I left them space to talk, went out to buy some things. When I returned, Grace Young was awkwardly holding the baby, her friend's child she had held before. When the baby was even smaller, back then a tiny soft bundle. She held it like a small bomb. Now, perhaps thanks to muscle memory, she held it better. She looked at the adorable baby in her arms, stared for a while, then looked up at the two in front of her. Such a cute little girl, and you to mate her. Grace Young, with memory loss, fell into thought. Michael Strong glanced at his wife. See, she lost her memory, but still talks as sharply as ever. I don't know if Grace Young's friends seriously filled her in on the big and small events of those 7 years. When I returned, her gaze at me was a bit strange, slightly avoidant. I invited Lily Frost and Michael Strong to stay for dinner. During the meal, their daughter slept in the stroller nearby. Her face still had traces of tears from being soothed to sleep. Truly lovable. Grace Young, who just had a head injury, still had some lingering effects these past few days. For example, when seeing me, she'd need a few seconds to react. Her memory was also weaker. Couldn't remember where she placed things. But these weren't big issues. She was gradually recovering and quickly getting used to my presence. Unfortunately, she still hadn't recalled the past. Since Grace Young's discharge, for half a month we slept in separate rooms. The 7 years of missing memories meant Grace Young now had to rebuild her connection to society from 18 to 25. Her education, career, and social relationships all had changed. I knew too little about this. Her family and friends needed to help her recall that time bit by bit. During this time, we had plenty of visitors, all coming to see Grace Young, and among them were many she no longer remembered. Seeing Grace Young still unable to recall anything, my emotions were a bit complex and hard to describe. With just over 2 years of knowing her, perhaps it wasn't enough for deep feelings, but thinking carefully, it was still a bit sad. A month later, Grace Young still hadn't recovered her memory, but the wound on her forehead had healed significantly. The bandage was long gone. No need to wrap it anymore. The scar was still visible. I didn't know if it would leave a mark. One evening, Grace Young looked at me, hesitating to speak several times. Finally, before I went to bed, she came with her phone. There's an album on my phone. It can only be opened with a password. Do you know the password? She asked hesitantly. During this time, Grace Young had gotten quite used to facial recognition. I had told her her screen and payment passwords, but it seemed that wasn't it. I looked at the page she showed, slightly surprised. Before, I didn't know Grace Young's phone had such a private album. I don't know the password. Are you sure you want me to try? The phone was already in my hand. I still turned to confirm with Grace Young. Even as husband and wife sharing a bed, it's hard to guarantee complete openness. I had never checked Grace Young's phone. I wasn't sure what I'd find in it. Grace Young froze at that. After a while, she still nodded. Aren't you my husband? The 2 words, my husband, were so soft almost only she could hear. The corner of my mouth curved slightly. Grace Young is very particular about rituals. Each of her passwords carries its own meaning. I tried a few number combinations. All showed as incorrect. It seemed this private album was truly Grace Young's secret. At first, I wasn't too curious, but after a few failed attempts, my curiosity was piqued. After thinking for a moment, I tried another sequence of numbers. The album opened. My emotions hadn't yet settled. When I saw the contents, Grace Young leaned over to look. The album had only a few hundred photos. All of them were of me. Some had appeared on my social media. Some were taken by Grace Young when we dated, and our photos together. There were also many I had never seen, clearly taken secretly. Scrolling to the first photo, it was me in a cafe. It looked like it was taken from outside. The angle was beautifully shot, but the issue was the timing of this photo. It was before I met Grace Young. She shouldn't have known me then. My eyes left the phone screen, landed on Grace Young's face beside me. She didn't remember anything. Clearly, she hadn't expected that before losing her memory, she had secretly collected photos of her husband on her phone. Why are your photos in a private album? I asked. There are quite a few candid shots. Grace Young couldn't explain, even blushing from guilt. She tried to take the phone back from me. I was quicker, turning off the screen first. I placed the phone back in her hand, but Grace Young didn't intend to leave. She stared at me, her eyes slightly downcast, as if hesitating. What's the password? After a long pause, she asked, facing my assessing gaze. I smiled, not making it hard for her. I said a sequence of numbers. Do you know what this password means? I asked, though Grace Young's face was red enough to cook. She still insisted on hearing me continue. It's the day we first kissed, I said, looking at her lips. If it was Grace Young before the memory loss, she would have already leaned in by now. But the memory lost wife in front of me, after being teased, would get shy. Also quite interesting, Grace Young, with an embarrassed expression, took her phone back to her room. In this house, everywhere were traces of our life together. It wasn't hard for Grace Young to see. We were truly very close before. I took her for a checkup. There were indeed no major issues. Just her memory hadn't recovered yet. Uncle Young visited a few times during this period to see his rebellious daughter. For some reason, father and daughter didn't get along, arguing after just a few words. Uncle Young sighed in lament. My daughter at 18 was infuriating. A father both nostalgic and unable to hold back from discipline. Didn't stay at the house every day. When I went to work, Grace Young would be home alone or go out for a walk. But I was a few years older than her. Plus, Grace Young's mind was still 18. I couldn't help but worrying when she went out. So I told her to send me her location when she went out. That evening, I had a social event. When I was done, I checked my phone. Grace Young sent her location an hour ago, saying she was meeting friends. I looked at the location. It was the address of a club. Grace Young had plenty of friends, like Lily Frost and Michael Strong before. Some of her closest friends, the kind who know each other's roots. But people always have superficial friends too. I was quite worried for Grace Young. She didn't remember anything now. I feared she'd be tricked and still help count the money. I texted Grace Young, asked when she'd be done so I could pick her up. The message was just sent. When Grace Young replied immediately, saying I could pick her up now. I had been to that club a few times. I found the room number Grace Young mentioned. When I reached the private room's door, it was slightly ajar. No music was playing inside, just the sound of conversation. Through the door's gap, I saw a man with his arm around Grace Young's shoulder, pouring wine while saying, Sister Grace, you say you don't remember anything from before. Don't remember how you met your husband. Why not divorce and find someone new? Look, he's older than you. His family isn't exactly a perfect match. Your mind is only 18 now. If you never remember, will you live your whole life with someone 10 years older? With your conditions? What kind of man can't you find? Standing at the door, I was still wondering if it was appropriate to walk in now. Grace Young's voice rang out. Are you okay? They say it's better to destroy 10 temples than one marriage. I'm perfectly fine, and you're urging me to divorce. Such immoral things you're capable of. Aren't you the one with memory loss? I lost my memory. Not that I don't like my husband. A waiter's voice came from behind, carrying a fruit tray about to enter. Seeing me at the door, he asked, Hello, sir. Can I help you with anything? As I stepped aside, the door was pushed open. The people inside looked out. I met Grace Young's eyes. She stood up. As she walked out, She didn't forget to snort coldly at the guy. My husband's here to pick me up. Until Grace Young got in the car with me, she remained silent. I borrowed the dim light to look at her. Her face was slightly flushed, drank too much. Grace Young lowered her eyes not much, though she said that. When she got out of the car, she stumbled a bit. Seemed like she drank quite a bit. Upstairs, Grace Young finally spoke. The guy tonight said he's been close with me these past few years. That's why I went to this gathering. Still can't remember the past 7 years. He was frustrated to humming. Someone wants to get close to you, knowing you lost your memory. Why say it's just a normal relationship? Grace Young probably realized this too. Didn't say more. Back home I showered first. When I came out, I saw Grace Young already in pajamas, sitting on the sofa in the bedroom. During this time, unless getting clothes, she rarely came to the master bedroom. Probably just showered. Her hair slightly messy, the scar on her forehead still visible, but her features under this light were truly breathtakingly beautiful. What are you doing here? Are you mad? Grace Young suddenly asked me. This caught me off guard. Why ask that? Grace Young looked up at me. I don't know. Just feel like you're mad. I didn't mean to. I denied it. You are, she insisted. I laughed. Then tell me what I'm mad about. Grace Young's gaze didn't waver. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you, smart, but not much. I smirked, about to walk away, but Grace Young grabbed my hand. Darling, she called softly. I froze. Grace Young pulled me closer, looked up at me, her eyes slightly downcast, inexplicably a bit aggrieved. Whether before or after memory loss, I was older than Grace Young. Her calling me darling was fitting. The issue was her mind was stuck at 18. My mind was truly 10 years older than hers. I don't remember anything. I don't understand you. If you don't say, how would I know? I stayed silent. You haven't fully recovered. Who told you to go out drinking? Apologize. No more next time. She quickly apologized, but even her apology carried a hint of grievance. My hand was still held by her. The scent of her body wash mixed with mine, creating a subtle ambiguity. If there's nothing, go rest, I said. But not only did Grace Young not let go, she wrapped her arms around my waist. Looking down, I saw Grace Young's eyes slightly hazy. The next second, her whole face buried in my chest. She was hugging me. Grace Young's voice sounded. I've tried to remember the past, but I just can't. If I never remember, will you not want me anymore? When did I say I didn't want to? She was still in my arms, complaining you're cold to me. I looked at our old messages. It's not like now. You're at work all day and don't pay attention to me. Cold, that's true. But she doesn't remember anything. Her memory stuck at 18. Should I flirt with someone whose mind is pre-18? I considered for a moment, softly saying, you only remember being 18, but I'm already 28. With your current mindset, acting like before with you isn't appropriate. What's inappropriate? Even if I only remember 18. I'm an adult. She looked up at me. I just noticed her eyes were red. Do you only like to 5-year-old me? Do you hate me now for being childish? Even if I never remember what I forgot, knowledge can be realigned. Feelings can be rebuilt. Don't be so cold to me. She paused, saying it makes me uncomfortable. The beautiful woman. Even when crying was beautiful, I couldn't help. Wiping the tear from the corner of her eye, my heart trembled slightly. Are you sure you like me now? I like you, she said firmly. Perhaps because of her memory loss, her teenage mindset made her expressions more passionate, direct. I lifted her face, leaned down to kiss her lips lightly, comforting. All right, I like you too. This kiss. Grace Young's reaction was strong. She pulled me and we fell onto the bed, propping herself above me, her eyes sparkling, asking, can we kiss again? The ceiling light cast a warm glow. Grace Young above, like the first time we kissed. Her voice enchanting, endlessly exploring. And now looking at her, that enchantment was fascinating. I couldn't help teasing her. When she went to kiss again, I turned my head. Grace Young's lips touched my cheek. Dissatisfied, she held my chin. Kissed again. A sticky kiss. She was a bit like a little puppy, But after kissing for a while, her body instinctively pressed closer. At some moment, Grace Young clearly froze. Her eyes looking at me showed embarrassment. Teasing and playing with my memorialized wife was actually quite fun. I held back a laugh. Grace Young's earlobes were red enough to bleed. I reached to touch her earlobe, flipped her under me, leaned down gently. Grace Young stopped playing. After saying that, I was about to get up, but she hugged me. Grace Young was breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling strongly. She said, "Can we continue?" The pink blanket covered us. Grace Young looked at the ceiling dejectedly, dazed. So I'm really not a pure girl anymore. As long as she thought of the pile of protective items in the nightstand. How could it be Grace Young after that? Was a bit like when we first got intimate. Specifically very passionate, extremely passionate. Her moving back to the master bedroom was only natural. As for her memory, there were still no signs of recovery. Uncle Young decided to teach her company management again. After all, her memory was gone, but her mind wasn't broken, still usable. It's just my father-in-law. Recently, the number of arguments with his daughter skyrocketed. I couldn't understand. My obedient wife with me. Why she clashed with her father. Uncle Young, frustrated, spoke to my late mother-in-law. A long string of complaints. Grace Young recovered her memory 3 months after the injury. That day wasn't anything special. She went to the kitchen to pour water. Suddenly, the sound of a cup crashing to the floor. I went to check. Grace Young was holding her head, sitting on the floor. Grace Young, what's wrong? I crouched down to look at her. My head hurts so much, take me to the hospital. Wait! She stopped me. Let me rest a bit first. My mind suddenly flashed with so many images. It hurts and I'm dizzy, I can't stand. I froze. You remembered. Maybe. She leaned weakly on my shoulder. Darling, carry me, though she was taking advantage. The pain was probably real. I held her for a long time. Late at night, we made a trip to the hospital. Grace Young had indeed recovered. Her memory scans showed. The doctor checked and said there were no issues. After returning home and sleeping, waking up the next morning, opening my eyes, I saw Grace Young looking at me beside me, her eyes smiling. I didn't know how long she'd been watching. Honey, a sweet call. I knew she truly remembered me. I touched her face. Grace Young leaned down to kiss my hand. I looked at her for a few seconds. Suddenly said, I have something to ask. I sat up, straddling her. Grace Young hadn't realized yet. Smiling, letting me sit. Can you explain why your phone has photos of me, but taken before we met? The smile on Grace Young's lips froze. Honey, do you believe in love at first sight? According to Grace's account, that day she saw me in a cafe while on a blind date. Felt a spark. Even watched one of my blind dates. Went home and begged her father to find a matchmaker. Otherwise, why do you think? The matchmaker just happened to find your family. She said I'm handsome, great figure, and our married life is very harmonious. She used my own words to tease me back. I had nothing to say. So you really only like those things? She asked. Of course not. Grace Young, besides being beautiful and wealthy, highly educated, she's also kind, upright, responsible, self-disciplined, respectful of others. These wonderful qualities make her. She herself is an amazing person. Liking her isn't hard at all. I smiled at her, smiling, I love all of you. In the 3rd year of marriage with Grace Young, our daughter was born. Uncle Young, besides the joy of becoming a grandfather, didn't forget to watch the drama. Finally, it's this naughty girl's turn to experience the struggles of raising a child. But our chubby fair granddaughter was unexpectedly well behaved. When breastfeeding, she'd eat and sleep, wake and eat again. Tease her, she'd laugh, hungry or needing a change, she'd cry. My mother said she's like me when I was little. Grace Young was very proud. Told her father, my daughter is much better than yours. Uncle Young wanted to say something. Told her not to get too smug. But one grandpa from the babbling baby made him overjoyed. Sweetheart, grandpa will buy you a big house, a fancy car. And so the spoiling began. Grace Young whispered in my ear, honey, are you free this weekend? Let my dad watch the kid. Let's go out for 2 days. While holding his beloved granddaughter. Unable to let go, Uncle Young had no idea. His daughter had already planned his weekend.